All right, so let's review the challenge. Upper intermediate first. Ah, look, such a nice coincidence, guys. What? Look at that, right? Is that familiar to you, right? So- no, no, I promise. It's just a, it's just a lovely coincidence, right? So the thing is, multiply. Is multiply a higher order function, guys? Why? Why? That's absolutely right, Elena. It takes functions as arguments. All right, so let's talk about these functions. So we got function A, for instance, and function B. And we have to multiply whatever these functions return. So can I do something like that? Return function A by function B. Is that going to work? That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, guys, these arguments are functions, so we have to call them. In this particular case, we got some luck because we don't even need to deal with any arguments in these functions or anything, right? We just call the functions, function A and function B, and then what? Well, then look, the first two assertions are okay, but can anyone tell me what's wrong with the last one? That's that's correct. We don't have function B in the last use case scenario. So how can we solve the problem? Well, we can first of all, of course, run a ternary, right? Return if I got function B, then do that, right? Else, what happens if I don't have function B, guys? That's correct, yeah. Can do something like that. And, that's fine. Let me show you a better way or a simpler way to solve the problem. Can anyone figure out how can I solve the problem without changing line number 2? No one? All right. The AND operator where you are not, Elena, you are not allowed to touch line number 2. Should remain like that. In other words, I give you a hint. I'm inviting you to do something in line number 1. Assign the number 12. That. So that's not gonna work, Maxim, because in the last use case scenario, function B will be number 12. So, but you are calling it as it was a function, right? So that's not gonna work. However, you pointed to the right direction, Maxim, because we definitely need to do something. Look at the trick, guys. What I'm gonna do here is, hey, if I don't have function B, I want to initialize it. Initialize it to what? It must be a function. It must be a function, right? So what is my function going to return? Number 1. Why number 1 and not 0 or 2? Well, because we want to multiply, right? So if we don't have function B, we are going to multiply whatever function A returns, 12, by 1. 12 multiplied by 1 is obviously 12. Yeah, that's some sort of trick, but, it prevents you from having to write any if else or any ternary or any and or things like that. Yeah, not necessarily super happy about that, but just to let you know that that approach is obviously possible. Yeah. Any questions? No. All right. So let me have a look to your code. So Lawrence says you get 2 functions, A and B. If I got the second one, I use it. If not, I call function A. All good. For Max, it's pretty much the same code. Fantastic. Vicky, the same. It's great, right? Everyone did pretty much the same thing. It was a bit hard to do something new like what they tried here, yeah. But yeah, all good. At least everyone is using a ternary, which is better than using if else, yeah, or at least simpler. All right, guys, so assuming you don't have any other questions, let me jump to question number 2. Oh, again, the same thing, right? Again, the same thing. So that's another higher order function. Transform is a high HOF because it receives an argument. Let me call it Fn so that argument is a function, right? So because that's a function, can we call it? Of course we can call it. However, in this occasion, the function is expecting an argument n. So I need to pass a number here. I don't know if it's 1, 2, 3, or 43. I have no idea. So when I pass that function and that number, sorry, to the function, and I multiply it by 3, it should return 12. So which number should it be? 4, obviously. Correct. Number 4, right? And then it works. So that's maybe even easier than the previous example, right? Any questions? No? All right. So what did I mean? It is. Interesting, Maxim. Interesting. That's a bit strange, I believe, right? So you call a function. It's technically speaking correct. You call the function with number 1, and then you multiply it by 4, right? But do you see, Maxim, that you can simplify that, right, David? And also, apart from that, let's talk about semantics, Maxim. So look, you can call it Fn, or some function name or whatever, but A doesn't tell me much about the type, the nature of the argument. Yeah? Cool. Thank you guys. So we do one more. Okay, that's a good question. So that question is quite easy, actually. I think, to be honest, we review a very similar one, if not that one, directly. But I'm going to type line number 2, and then you are going to help me to type line number 1. So return the kid receives, and then first present and second present. You see what I've done? So, exactly. Now you need to do your magic on line number 1, guys, to complete the exercise. So can anyone tell me what should I do here? Yeah, all right. Can anyone help Lauren? First present, comma, second present. Interesting. That's not gonna work. That's because that is invalid. Yeah. So Lauren, yeah. All right. So we'll see that later. Correct. So look, what type of data, guys? What type of data presents is? Presents. It's an array. Yeah. So if you want to structure it, you need to use array syntax. You see? So the whole argument, it's an object. That's why, as Lauren said, we first of all have to destructure it using curly braces. But then presents is an array. So the way we can destructure it is using the array notation. Yeah? So first present will be assigned to the first element of the array, and second present will be assigned to the second element of the array. So let's see if it works. I did something wrong. List presence is not defined. Correct. We should rename it, right? I mean, someone may argue that that's done on purpose, just to see if you are paying attention. But that's a very easy way to ruin your accuracy, yeah, your accuracy score. All right, that was pretty much it. Do you have any questions, guys? All right. So Max wants to check his answer. We'll go there in a minute. All right. So let me zoom the screen out a bit. look, even though Lawrence code is great, yeah, my only subtle concern is again about semantics, Lauren. So if you see, you are rebranding, you are rebranding the semantics, yeah, from present to give, right? That's the yeah, cool, good stuff. Thank you very much. And then yeah, obviously, no, I mean, Max is not doing anything wrong, right? I thought that's going to be much worse. That's not cheating at all. That's absolutely valid, Max. Yeah, you are destructuring the argument, so presence is going to be an array. So then you access the first and the last one. I mean, the reason why we created that question is to invite you to do the structuring in the full way, as Lauren did. Yeah? And also, please, Max, remember to add spaces surrounding the structure variable. Yeah. All right. And then you see Vicky didn't destructure anything, right? Which is, again, that's fine. It's fine. But I think we should get the habit of destructuring arguments, because that simplifies your code later on. Anything else, guys? Does anyone has any particular interest on reviewing the remaining two questions on intermediate? Yeah. You are right. Yeah, that question, it's really on the limit between intermediate and expert. Actually, that's harder than many questions in the advanced level. Let's do it because yeah, that's it's complicated. It's a really complicated question considering it's intermediate. So first of all, let's try to understand what the problem is. So the problem is, we got a list of lottery players, right? And then we want to see who is the winner, or eventually there could be more than one winner, or none, right? So who wins the lottery? The person who, which ticket has satisfies an algorithm, and what that algorithm is about. So the result of adding the first and the last number, 1 and 2, should be the same as adding all the remaining numbers. Yep. So why Amy is a lottery winner? Because 1 plus 2 equals 0 plus 3 plus 0 plus 0. That's why she's a lottery winner. That's the idea. There are two ways of solving the problem, I believe. The dirty way, not necessarily dirty. Yeah, we could have a very philosophical discussion about it. But the quick way and the long way. So the quick way, I may assume the lottery has an exact amount of numbers, 6 digits. Okay? If that assumption is correct, it's going to be very easy to solve. Yeah. On the other way around, we could assume that the lottery may have, I don't know, 5, 7 numbers. It may have a dynamic list of numbers. And that's what I would like to solve today. And that's going to require an extra effort, obviously. Yeah? So, first things first. Look, I'll show you how I'm going to destructure the problem. First of all, I have a list of players. And then look, not return. So I'm going to create a variable called winners equals something. And then eventually I'm going to check. First of all, winners is going to be an array. Yeah, we'll see how to build the array later on. If I got at least a winner, then I'm going to return winners dot map, maybe. So for each winner, I'm going to return the name. And then dot join comma space. Yeah, I'm essentially covering the last use case scenario. Imagine that I managed to determine somehow that the lottery winners are Maurice and Sandra. So once I got that, then how can I display them? Well, map through each winner, get the name, and then join them all using comma space to display something user-friendly. Else, can anyone tell me, guys, what happens if I don't have any lottery winners? None, correct. So that's the easy part. That's the easy part. Now the complexity is here, right? So I got a list of players and I want to get a subset. So ignoring the implementation details, can you tell me which JavaScript method can satisfy my appetite of returning a subset of the original array? To string, no, I don't know how can you solve that using toString. No. Guys, I got an array of 3 elements. And eventually, in the second use case scenario, I want to get none back. In the last use case scenario, I got an array. My input is an array of 3 elements, and my output is an array of 2 elements. So which array method is very helpful to get a subset of the original input? Filter, correct. Yeah, correct. We can do winners.filter. Not winners, sorry. Players.filter. And then for each player, I'm going to check if is winner, passing the player. You see? You see, guys, the way I'm destructuring my problem. This is what we call divide and conquer. Yeah, I'm dividing a big problem, yeah, into smaller chunks. So now it all depends on my ability to create the isWinner function. Yeah? So isWinner will return true if the information about the player satisfies the expectation. Yeah, actually, rather than passing the player, I'm gonna pass the ticket directly. Yeah, so then, to me, the isWinner function becomes a bit more natural because it receives a single ticket, which is a number like 103002. So then, the only thing we need to do now is to determine if that number wins the lottery. So remember the algorithm. So we need to check if the result of adding the first and the last numbers is the same as the result of adding everything else. So first of all, let's create some variables for readability purposes. First digit. How do you get, guys? How do you get the first digit of the ticket? That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So we got the ticket. Remember, guys. Well, that's. No. Wait. No, that's right. That's right. I didn't say that. That's. I said that's correct, but I changed my mind quickly. Right. So ticket is a number. The idea is right. The idea is fully right. But the thing is, you cannot, as Max said, you cannot do a ticket.split because then that's not going to work. You cannot split a number. So you need to transform it to a string, and then once it's a string, you can safely get the individual characters. Yeah. So that's the way you can get the first digit. How can you get the last digit? Yep. All right. Well, we'll see that in a minute, Elena. We'll see that in a minute. Yeah, we'll see how can we improve the algorithm. Yeah, I'm for now happy if we follow the right path, and then we'll see how to improve that path, right? Because that exercise is complex enough. All right, so we got the first digit, and then we got the last digit. How can you get the last digit, guys? Ticket.length -1. I'm afraid that's not gonna work. And that's not gonna work because, again, what type of data ticket is? Ticket is a number. So you cannot do number.length. That doesn't really make sense at all. Yeah? So we need to transform, again, the number into a string, and then actually you can even do split if you want, and then you get the length. You see? So it is so easy to fail in this problem, yeah, that we need to be extra careful. And now, before going any further, if I'm writing this algorithm, I mean, I will complain straight away, like, hey, wait. Regardless of whether that's right or not, it means that that's correct. It means that that returns the first digit and the last digit. Fantastic. Even in that case, that code smells. And it smells because we are repeating the same operations. Look, how many times are we transforming the ticket to string and then we split it? 1, 2, and 3, right? 3 times. That's not efficient. That's not efficient. So let me do something. Let me first of all create a variable called string ticket. Yeah. And then with a string ticket, I'm gonna, or actually let me call it array ticket. I'm just trying to follow natural steps based on what you have suggested. Yeah. So that's gonna be my array ticket because that's a number, then that's a string, and then you get eventually an array of individual numbers as strings, right? You got something like that. So if I create a variable called array ticket, now look at how much the code gets simplified later on. See? A bit easier. That's a bit easier. Elena was suggesting that that's a bit too complicated because she thinks that we don't really need to create an array. So guys, if I have an array of hello and then world, of course, if I want to get the first element of the array, so if this is let list equals, if I want to get the first element, I can do let 0, right? That's fine. But what if I have a string called hello world? Can I use a square bracket notation with strings? Yes, we can, of course. What's list of 0 gonna return? 8. That's correct, Max. Yeah. So we can use a square bracket notation with arrays, of course, but also with strings. In this particular case, if I do ticket.toString, I'm gonna get a string with the representation of the number, something like that. Yeah. So of course, if I do array ticket of 0, that will return the first digit, which is 1. From a semantics point of view, what do you think about calling the variable array ticket? That's correct. It's no longer an array. Correct. So let's rename it to string ticket. You see, that's why it's so important to be careful with the naming conventions. Yeah. So you got a string ticket, which is that string, and then I get the first character, and then I got the last character. I need to be extra careful here, guys. I've called the variable first digit. It's not a digit. It's not a digit. What type of data first digit is? It's a string. That's correct. That's correct. So I'm gonna rename it. You can, guys, you can miserably fail writing algorithms just because you forgot that you are dealing with numbers, but you had to deal with arrays or with strings or whatever. Yeah. So we need to be extra careful with the naming conventions. All right. So I got my first digit and my last digit. Actually, eventually, you know, I'm gonna add the first and the last digit. So I will have to transform them again to numbers if I want to add them, right? So do you know how can I transform that string digit into a proper digit? That's correct. I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. So that will return the proper number so I can then safely add them. Is that variable name valid? Not anymore, right? You see how I'm going back and forth all the time? But I think that's important. Yeah, I'm sanitizing my algorithm before moving on. All right, that's correct, guys. You can use number. I'm gonna show you a trick. There is a simpler way to transform a string into a number in JavaScript. So what you can do is you can type plus, yeah, and that will transform the string into a number. All right. So what I know is that I want to check that the guy will win the lottery, and then hopefully he will or she will stop running these algorithms. If first digit plus last digit equal something. So now we have to determine what's the result of adding the remaining numbers. Yeah. So how can we get the remaining numbers? Well, let me show you. So I'm going to create another variable called guys, give me a good name for the numbers apart from the first and the last. Middle numbers, all right, or middle digits, right? Again, if we're using the naming conventions about digits, let's keep that. Yeah, if we change our mind and we're going to change that to number, fine, we'll do that, but consistently. Yeah. All right. So middle digits equals. I got the string ticket, and I want to get all the numbers apart from the first and the last. So there is a very nice way to do that, which is using the slice method. The slice method returns a subset of that string. It also works with arrays, yeah, between the indexes that you pass here. So for instance, look, if I pass 1, this is our string, it's going to return everything apart from the index 0. Yeah, so that's the starting index. Yeah, so we start here from 0, and then I can tell what's the final index. So the final index is gonna be the latest minus 1. So I can do string ticket dot length minus 1. So that will essentially strip the last character of the string. Yeah. So in theory, if that operation is right, I should get a string with 0, 3, 0, and 0. So now I want to return what's the result of adding them all. Look, because I'm gonna add some numbers, what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna split it. So that tells that essentially, let me actually present the add some comments around just to get an idea about what I'm supposed to be building. So after slicing, I got a string with 0, 3, 0, 0. When I split it, I should get, where is my cursor? I should have an array with 0, 3, 0, 0. Something like that. And now I want to add them all, so I can use reduce to get the total and then the digit. So I can do total plus digit. So that will eventually dot reduce. I forgot the dot. That will eventually add 0 plus 3 plus 0 plus 0. I'm not convinced about that because I'm still dealing with data types, numbers, strings. So string ticket, that's a string. Slice, still a string. Split, an array of strings. So I'm gonna do something, guys. You know what I'm gonna do here? I'm gonna use, I can give you two options. Map. So I got my string digit. Yeah, remember, we are dealing with the strings. And then I'm gonna do number, string digit. So that is gonna essentially return an array of numbers. Yeah, something like that. Option B, maybe even simpler, is I'm going to skip that step. I'm going to initialize reduce to 0. So then total is going to be 0. But then, look, remember, I can do plus number digit, because that's not a digit. That's a string digit. So I can do plus number string digit, or simply adding a plus in front of it, as we've seen before. That will hopefully transform the string digit into a proper digit. So middle digits, that's now in reality that's a number with a total. Yeah. So let me rename the variable, because middle digits, I don't know, that's a weird variable name. How many digits you got here? It's not about the number of digits, it's the total, right? Median digits total. So now I can hopefully do first digit plus last digit equal middle digits total. Yeah? Something like that. What do you think? Yeah, so that's the idea. Is winner is expected to return a boolean. Yeah. If the guy won the lottery, then it should return true, so the player will be saved. If he didn't win the lottery or she didn't win the lottery, it should return false, so it will be removed from the list. Yeah? I'm gonna, before pressing the button, I'm gonna run a few things. So to me, that is winner function is quite heavy. Yeah? It's quite complicated. So you know, I'm not a big fan of large functions. So I'm gonna create a new function called get middle digits total. So it will receive a string ticket. You see, guys, once again, I'm doing divide and conquer. I'm refactoring a large method into a smaller method. So now I can hopefully move everything into that function. You see? And finally, I can even skip that step of creating the variable, and I can just call it like that. So if something is wrong, then hopefully I will be able to do divide and conquer. Is it wrong because we failed on the first function? Is it wrong because we failed in the second function? Or is it wrong because we failed in the third function? All right, so let's go from the beginning again. Get winner, we got a list of players, so we filter the winners. We'll go back to that point in a minute. If I got a list of winners, go through them, get the name of each of them, and then separate it by comma space. If I have no winners, if there are no winners, then display no. Fantastic. So now let's go to is winner. Is winner. I got a ticket. Let me highlight the variable types, yeah? Because it's very easy to fail there. So ticket, what type of data ticket is? It is a number. Okay, so ticket, fantastic. I got a string number to transform it into a string. Fine. The first digit, yeah, as a number. Okay, the last digit in here, array ticket. Oh, you see, guys, that's wrong. Yeah, what should I put here instead of array ticket? String ticket, correct. Yeah, so this is one of the things that you can easily fail when you refactor your code. All right, string ticket. I got the last digit, -1. I transform it to a proper number. Fantastic. So then I want to see if the first and the last is the same as the result of adding them all. So how can we add the digits in the middle? All right, so we got the entire ticket as a string. Remember, as a string, we slice it, so that will give us the digits in the middle. We split it, so that will give us an array of individual digits as strings. That's why we call it string digit. And then we get the total plus the total by using reduce. That will iterate through all the elements, and we ensure we transform them individually to numbers. All right, that's quite intense. That's definitely not an intermediate question, yeah? But it's what it is. So should we try it? I think it is so easy to fail here, guys. I mean, I'm just 50% sure I made it right, but you know, let's try it. You say I did something wrong. All right. So look, when you get that, I'm super happy about that, guys. When you get a syntax error, that means you failed on a parenthesis, you failed on a comma, something silly, something stupid. Actually, I found it already. Can anyone see what the problem is? Correct. Filter, open parenthesis, and I forgot to close it. Yeah? I'm very happy when I got this type of errors because this is quite easy to solve. The problem is when you return, instead of Amy, you return Ginger. Like, what the hell? I returned the wrong winner, the wrong winner. These semantic issues are much harder to deal with. All right, so I was 50% sure it's going to work. Now I'm 60% sure it's going to work. There you go, right? Now it works fine. Cool, questions? Yep. That's a good question. That's a good question. Let me, before I forget, guys, let me share the code snippet with you on Slack in case you want to play with it later on. And I'm back to your question in a second. You give me a second, please. So let me paste the code snippet. Here we go. All right. So now what Elena is asking is, if I got a string, let string equals 6, yeah? And I want to transform it to a proper number, I can do parse int string, yeah? And that will return 6, fine. But I can also use number string, and that will return 6. So I can use both. That's a classic job interview question, by the way. Parse int versus number. Which one do you prefer? Is anyone opinionated? Yes, 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 yes. In this, well, fine. If I tell you the difference, I'm answering the question probably, right? But, and that means you don't get the job. But anyway, let's do that. So, so that's absolutely brilliant, Max. You managed to find the difference. But what are the consequences of the difference? So which one do you prefer? That's very interesting. That's very interesting, Max. Let's play. No, I really like the way you explain the difference. Look, I'm on my playground, right? I'm doing console.log number 6. You cannot see my screen. Oh, I'm just saying. All right. Sorry, guys. Then I cannot show you. All right, that's fine. You just. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm just sharing. Okay, let me do something because I think that's quite interesting. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna share my entire desktop. View the entire screen. Here you go. Max, you are on the stage. Please smile. Cool. Guys, can you see my screen now? All right, so I hope you can see VS Code. So what you can see here is console.log number 6 that's going to work. You'll see in a second, eventually, yeah. But I can do parse int of 6, and that's going to work too. The difference is parse int is smarter. Smarter, well, we can argue if it's smarter or not, but it's different in the sense that it can determine where the number is. So for instance, if I got 6 pints, please, yeah, let's see what happened if we run the same code in both cases. With number, it fails. You see, number is unable to determine where the number is. However, parse int works. So that's a difference, back to what Maxim referred for, right? So parse int, parse not ints, parse int is able to figure out somehow where the number is. But you have to be careful, because that will only work if the number is at the beginning of the expression. So if you do something like that, that's not gonna work. See, in both cases, now it fails. So parsing is convenient, for instance, when you deal with CSS properties. Imagine that you got 30 pixels, and eventually you want to add 30 pixels plus 20 pixels. So how do you get the number out of that expression? Number is not going to work. However, parsing is going to give me the number. So then I could do something like that. You see? So parsing is smarter. However, as always in life, guys, that's not for free. Because parsing tries to figure out where the hell the number is in the expression. That means that has a cost. Parsing is slower than number. Yeah, parsing is slower than number. In other words, never ever use parse int unless you have a very good reason. And the good reason is dealing with something like that, dealing with an expression where you know the numbers stays at the beginning of that expression. Yeah? If not, if you know that yes, you got a string, but that string represents a number, then always use number because it's more efficient. Any questions? Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Maxim. I think the way parsing work is, do I have a number? Yes, 3. All right, save it into the basket. Do I have another number? Yes, save it. I got 30 so far. Then P, do I have a number? No, give up, right? That's why if you put a non-numerical character at the beginning, it will say, do I have a number? No, give up, and return not a number. Yeah, but it definitely iterates internally over the expression somehow. So that's why it's more expensive, yeah, than number. Anything else, guys? Correct. It has a very specific use. There are actually two related methods. One is parsing, and the other one is parse float. Float. Yeah, exactly, decimal number. But the same criteria applies to both. Yeah. So never use parsing than parse float unless you have a very good reason. You know, guys, you can imagine how many times I've been reviewing an exercise created by a candidate, and if I come across the code, you know that many occasions we review the code diagonally. You know what reviewing the code diagonally means? That you don't really pay attention to all the details because that will be absolutely exhausting. But you get an overview about the coding structure, how long the methods are, you know, variable names. So when you find many references to parse int in the code, that smells. That's very smelly, yeah? So try to reduce your dependency with parsing because, again, unless you're doing something exceptional, and that will be 2 times over the next 30 years, don't use it. Yeah, don't use it. Anything else, guys? Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cool. Do you want actually look, 2 of you solved that question. That's great. Yeah, the winning the ticket thingy. My only concern here is, guys, that's overwhelming. If you are expecting me to try to read it to understand the win ticket or the check ticket, that's too much, right? So try to divide that into smaller functions, for instance, about the middle total. But anyway, that's fantastic, guys. Fantastic that you find a way to solve the problem, right? Do you want me to do one question on the advanced All right, so I'm going to do the first one. Sorry about that, Elena. But all right, so question number 1. Hard switch. Hard switch. Look at what we got here. We got that question is actually simpler than the one we just reviewed. So it is true that this is one of the simplest questions in the advanced level, by the way. Anyway, so hard switch. We got as an argument, we got an object, hello coterie, and we want to swap key and values. So if the key was hello, now the value will be hello. If the value was coterie, now the key is coterie. And. Before thinking that's a piece of cake, be careful because we need to swap the case. Yeah, hello starts with capital H, then it will become small h. Then small e becomes big E, and so on. Yeah, so we need to swap the case in both the keys and the values. However, that's much simpler than the previous question, so I'm quite confident we're going to sort it out quickly. So I got an object. I'm not going to play hard with the semantics because I have no idea, right? We're talking about what? About players, about Formula 1 teams. I have no idea, right? So I'm going to keep it as much generic as possible. So I'm going to call it object. So then, look, return object dot reduce. That's a classic example, not reduce, sorry. Object is an object, so I need to do object dot keys. So I want to get the keys of the object dot reduce, and now I'm gonna do something here, right? We'll see what I need to do. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build from scratch a new object. That's why we initialize it like that. Yeah, we initialize it as an empty object. So my variables, my arguments. First of all, I'm gonna call it switch object. Yeah, so this will be my placeholder where I'm gonna fill the new object. And then can anyone tell me a decent variable name for the second argument? Key, brilliant. That's exactly it, Lauren. Key, because we are getting the list of keys of the object, right? So in the first use case scenario, the first key is gonna be hello with capital H. All right, before I forget, I'm gonna return the accumulator. And now, essentially, the idea is, look, what's the value associated to the first key? Well, value equals object of key. Yeah, that will give me the value of the first key. The first key is hello. The value associated to that key is coterie. Yeah? So then the idea is to look. Switch up is an object, so its first key is going to be the first value. And now, can anyone tell me what's going to be the value associated to that key? That's correct, Elena. It's going to be the key. You see, that's the way we can handle, we can swap, we can switch keys and values. And that's almost okay. However, that's not going to work. If I test it, look, but that gives me some confidence. Actually, you see, we managed to swap keys and values. The key was hello. Now it became the value. The value was coterie, and now it is the key. So that's okay. Now the only thing we need to do is to change the case. For that, I'm going to create a new method called switch case, which is going to be a generic method. It will work with any string. And then the idea is I need to iterate over each character. So I would like to split it like that. Then I'm going to use map to transform the case. So can anyone tell me how can I transform from uppercase to lowercase and vice versa? Yep. Yep. Then what? All right, let's move things around for readability purposes. That's absolutely correct, Elena. Yeah. So if the characters is written in capitals, then transform it to a small character, right? If on the other way around the character was written in small letters, then sorry, that's wrong, right? To uppercase, yeah. So if the character was written in small letters, that will be falsy. So then we will capitalize it. We will transform it to big letters. All right. So that will give me an array of switched cases. How can I bring it back to a string, guys? Join, correct. And what do I pass as an argument here? Yeah, empty string. All right. Is this gonna work? Absolutely, absolutely. So we have created a utility function that will simplify the hard switch method, but now we obviously need to use it, right? We need to invoke it, otherwise what's the point of creating a function? All right, so where should I use that function? Around the key on line number 4, around the value here. So Max, I think, wants to do it here, right? That's okay. That's okay. I find that line a bit complex enough, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it before. It's the same, right? It doesn't matter if you do it here or later. I find that code a bit simpler, personally. All right. What do you think, guys? Is that going to work? Did I miss anything? I don't know. Let's have a look. All right. Let's run it. Here you go. All right. We got confetti time. Cool. Questions? Absolutely, my friend. You just need to practice with that. But I hope you agree with me that question is not that complicated. I think the previous one was harder, right? This is all about if you divide the problem in that way. So you build your new object, and then you create another function to to transform the case. I think you are moving from a relatively complex problem into 2 relatively simple issues, right? Anything else?